Hey guys, subscribe for daily content. And if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks!
What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got a knife presentation to share with you guys. We've got a pretty iconic folding knife to talk about today, and that's the Tom Mayo Dr. Death. Now, before we get into this, I want to let everybody know what territory we're in. This is not a review. I'm basically just going to talk about this knife and present it for people who are unfamiliar. Tom Mayo and the Dr. Death are iconic for sure. This is a custom knife. The blade is hand ground, and to be honest with you, I am not sure if the scales are hand done, or I don't know if it's like a manual mill, or I have no idea. I am not a Tom Mayo expert. As long as I have been an active member of the knife enthusiast community, I cannot sit here and pretend to know hardly anything. I did a little bit of research on Arizona Custom Knives. He's been making knives since 1981, apparently. The oldest listing for a Dr. Death on Arizona Custom Knives was 2008. It would not surprise me if he has been making the model since well before then, but I just don't know. I'm not going to do my typical review process. I just want to talk about this, give you guys my impressions, but we are in knife enthusiast territory. This is a collector's item. Definitely. This is not a knife that you can just go out and buy for a normal, right? There are pocket knives out there that look and feel, in terms of overall quality, the same or better for substantially less, right? I mean, it depends on your definition of better, right? We have, we got a lot of Chinese companies that are able to essentially manufacture perfection for around $200. People who are interested in this knife are interested in it because of its legacy, because of the legacy behind Tom Mayo and behind the Dr. Death. They are wanting it for reasons that go far beyond utility, manufacturing quality, things like that, right? So this isn't going to be for everybody. It certainly is not a knife that is made for everybody. It's a really, really expensive knife. I saw listings anywhere from the normal price range was like $1,500 to $3,000, which is not uncommon at all for a custom knife. But this sort of leans more on the plain Jane aesthetic. Like this particular one is sort of on the plain Jane aesthetic part of the spectrum. They definitely do get more complicated, but just to save people some time, this is only going to be interesting to a few people. But I like to talk about this stuff, even if there are not a lot of people who are going to, get something out of it. This is just fun for me as a knife enthusiast. I really enjoy talking about pieces like this. There's a bunch of interesting things here about the different sizes, and we'll get into that. Thank you so much to the person who was brave enough to loan this to me. It will be going back to that person when I am done. I do not get to keep this. Thanks to my patrons for supporting me, and please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. So that looks like a pretty big knife. And by the way, just because this is a super expensive handmade custom knife does not mean that it is a delicate piece. No, this is absolutely functional, absolutely capable, and there's no escaping it. This thing was probably made more for, this is probably made a little bit more for combat than general EDC, right? But it absolutely caters to the enthusiast. I think that the design always has, as these things often do. All right, stop talking and measure it. This is a pretty big one. We're coming in at about 9.5 inches blade length. It's important to remember that because these are hand ground blades, you're going to see slight variation if you look at listings, which was something that I was not confused by, but I found interesting. That there were definitely different size tiers, but each one was slightly different on the blade length, even within the same tier. And that's because these are all hand ground. So that is definitely an indication that the scales, they might not all be sort of like stamped out. They might actually, the handle scales might actually be created specifically to custom fit the blade on each individual knife, right? And that's, I'm trying to emphasize the fact that I really don't know how the scales are done. But it would not surprise me if the entire knife was handmade, right? But this one in particular, like I said, is coming in at 9.5 inches roughly. It's a little bit longer if you want to get specific. It's about 9.55 inches. Blade length is coming in at exactly 4.25, and the cutting edge on this guy is coming in at about 4.16, something like that. To my knowledge, the Dr. Death comes in there might be some minis out there, like mini minis. I'm not aware of them. Then they come in like a small size, which is, I guess, somewhere around 8 inches, 7.5 to 8 inches, right? It's really difficult for me to like really zero in and figure out where the different sizes are, right? And then the standard size of the Dr. Death, like when they're just listed as Dr. Death, it seems to come in anywhere from 8.5 to 9.5 inches. This, to my surprise, is not the XL. This is just generally listed as Dr. Death, 9.5 inches, right? Then they have the XL, which is anywhere from 10.5 to 11 inches, it seems like. And then they have a Mega Dr. Death, which is even bigger. So there you go. This video is not meant as a guide, like a buyer's guide. This is just something that, it's just, if you're going to seek one of these out and you're looking for a specific one, because believe me, there are many different variations of this. It's just going to be, one of those things where unless you are, sort of digging into a specific, like Tom Mayo focused community, which they do exist, right? It's just really, it's not really easy to distinguish, each one, at least from my perspective, right? I'll admit my research was limited, but I really just want to talk about the design today, 7 minutes in. Let's go ahead and do a couple of size comparisons. And this is really just so you can get an idea of how big it is. The Spyderco PM2 and Spyderco Para 3, yeah, this is huge. It's a big knife, right? We'll just do a couple more. Ontario Rat 1, and how about like the Ritter Hogue? I don't know that it makes a whole lot of sense to do the smaller knives, but we'll do like the Benchmade Bug Out. The thing that I'll say is that, for being a 9.5 inch knife, this is probably one of the more compact and pocket friendly 9.5 inch knives that I've ever handled. It really does fold up into a fairly compact package. It's not like sorry, there's a little fingerprint or something on there. It's not like an XM24, right? A Hinder XM24, 9.25 inch knife is a big, bulky, tanky knife. This does not feel delicate. It does not feel like an elongated bug out or anything like that. But it also just doesn't feel huge. It's one of those where, up until I measured it, I wasn't exactly sure how long it was. I was like, this could be 9 inches or it could be 11 inches. I'm kind of thrown off by everything here. But yeah, weight's going to vary on all the different variants of this. If you've heard Dr. Death before and you're like, I feel like I've heard Dr. Death, but the one that I saw didn't look like that. The one that's super popular, at least from my perspective, is the collaboration that he did with Shiro Groff. And I don't know when that collaboration I don't know the origins of that collaboration, but those do look super cool. But the Russian Dr. Death was the collaboration with Shiro Groff. And sometimes those appear to go for more, and sometimes those appear to go for less. I mean, it just depends on the variant and how much work. Generally speaking, the amount of money you're going to pay will be a combination of how rare that specific variant is and how much work went into that specific variant along with the condition, right? It's par for the course for custom knives, right? Collectibles in general. But yeah, that's the Russian Dr. Death, which I have never handled, maybe one day. This is the Tom Mayo Dr. Death. By the way, he makes knives out of Hawaii, and to my knowledge is still doing that. This is the first, actual custom. I think I've had Tom Mayo designs on this channel more than once, but this is the first time I've ever handled an actual Tom Mayo custom. Weight's going to vary, right? scale materials are, full titanium, there's carbon fiber, there's Damascus, and I'm sure a wide range of other things, given that he's a custom knife maker. Weight on this one, though, I'm gonna guess this weighs 6.5 to 7 ounces. That's just my guess. Nope, a little less than that. 5.82 ounces. So, not perfect ratios. I'm not sure that people who are looking to collect these are really all that concerned with ratios and balance. But if you are, the balance on this particular one is about right here. It's actually right on that scallop there. Perhaps this was, it appears that this is one of the intended hand positions. I don't know anything about knife fighting at all. I'm going to guess that was the intention with this design. I can't really speak on that because I don't know anything about knife fighting. But I would venture to guess that there would be a benefit to making the thing as long as possible and keeping your fingers as far away from the blade as possible. Maybe, I don't know. I'm just guessing here. But the handle has enough room for you to comfortably grip it in a multitude of different ways. I mean, the handle is truly gigantic. We'll measure blade stock thickness here real quick. Give me a moment. That looks to be, 190, 165 to 185, somewhere around there. No, it's actually less. It says 156 thousandths. Really threw me off there. 156 thousandths on the spine or 55 thousandths. I would venture to guess that the blade stock thickness will also vary depending on the version that it is. Again, with all the blades being hand ground, there's not going to be any general consistency, right? At least as far as I can tell. Hardware check. I am not going to touch this with my tools. This is very rare and very expensive, and I'm just not going to, this is somebody's baby, right? So I believe that these are all going to be T8, and then we have a T6. You know what? We better check to make sure. It also wouldn't surprise me if the hardware changes between variants. Yeah, that's T8. It's also T8. Pocket clip screws are going to be T6. So if you really wanted to take this thing apart, you certainly could, and it wouldn't be very difficult. I think that's going to be pretty much it. I don't know that there's really a whole lot more I can say there. Tom Mayo likes holes, right? You don't see too many of these out there, even when you can find them, that don't have holes. It's just kind of a signature thing. And sometimes it's, like this, where there's a hole in the middle and there's 2 rows of holes up here and 2 rows of holes down there. Sometimes it's just one hole in the middle, right? Sometimes it's just holes all over the place in random spots, right? These serve as a little bit of weight reduction, and it's, really just kind of a decorative aesthetic, right? I think the main thing, though, that the driving force behind the popularity of this knife is absolutely the silhouette, or the aesthetic of the silhouette, right? This thing is very aggressive looking. It is very sinister looking. Straightforward for sure, right? But it's this area right here as it comes out slightly and creates sort of a small cross guard, right? And then how this it's just like a small sword blade comes out of it. Really, real military looking combat blade. That is a really, really nice look. And if a less expensive production version of the Dr. Death exists in collaboration with some company, I do not know about it. But my goodness, would this just be a wonderful, wonderful thing to have, more widely available and for less money. I have no use in my day-to-day life for a combat knife. But would I carry it and use it just for fun? Well, sure. I have tons of knives in my collection that were undoubtedly designed, as like you could use this for, I don't like getting into that because it's like you can use a rolling pin as an effective self-defense or self-offense weapon, right? There's a lot of things around my house that were, meant to be a lamp base, like a heavy lamp base is, in my opinion, one of the most dangerous things in my house. that I could use as a weapon if I really had to, right? So I don't really like to discuss that, but mainly because I don't know what I'm talking about, right? I barely know what I'm talking about when it comes to this thing. Some of the more interesting elements on this particular one, I was watching a video where a guy was talking about the inside of these holes, and he called these lines chatter marks. And that's the first time I had ever heard that. But that's interesting. It does look nice. I like how it looks. I don't know that I would have... I knew about this one, but I don't know that I would have noticed the lines on the inside of those holes had he not pointed that out on the one that he was looking at. I think that's nice. It's a nice little touch, right? It's just a bead-blasted frame and then hand-rubbed satin finish on the blade. The blade is absolutely done well, and let me say, holy moly, that edge is ridiculous. That is a ridiculous edge that he has on this knife, if it is in fact the original edge. It is even, it is beautiful, very sharp, right? Tip is absolutely, I mean, you could imagine, the thing's going to be effective for what it was designed for. This one comes in CTS XHP. I've seen a wide variety, almost like, it reminded me of like looking up Strider SNGs and SMFs. It's just really all over the place. Lots of different steels that he's used on this. And that's something that you see with a lot of custom knife makers. They use a lot of different steels. I do like the little Mosaic thumb studs here. That's a really nice little tiny detail. Something that I really enjoy about knives in general is when little teeny tiny details are added for people who want to look. And that looks really nice, right? His knives seem to have more or less of these elements. Some of them don't have these mosaic or little tiny details at all, and some of them do, right? I think it just depends on what he felt like making at the time. I really like the spear point blade with the heavy swedge. Looks really good. For a hand ground blade, that's really basically perfect, right? It's certainly not a blade shape that we haven't seen, but something about this long, just spear point blade coming out of this combat handle, right? Just looks really cool. It's also very comfortable. Holding it clear up here behind the edge, or holding it back here and using this little notch to kind of, brace with your index finger, really comfortable. It really does feel like you're holding a tiny folding sword. This is an aesthetic that is very pleasing to me. I don't know exactly what it is. It kind of makes me think, I've always had a fascination with old school Italian stilettos, like the old the swivel guard, and especially the swing guard. I really like how it looks like a cross guard, and anything that comes even remotely close to that on a knife, I am instantly attracted to it. Whether we're talking about a knife or a sword, or a pocket knife or whatever, whenever there's something that looks like, I don't know, like the beginnings of a cross guard or a full cross guard or whatever, the swing guard, that look, for some reason, it just looks very appealing to me. And I don't know if that's exactly why this thing is so popular or not. I have absolutely no idea. People wanting a history lesson on Tom Mayo knives, or wanting to really learn specifics about Tom Mayo knives, I'm sure are very disappointed in this video. What can I tell you? I just don't always know everything. But my videos are really more about the knives themselves and my thoughts on them. But anyways, another interesting element of this knife, and one that people who know a lot more about these knives than me are probably waiting for me to talk about, is the action, which is very impressive considering it runs on phosphor bronze. This is extremely smooth. And I'm going to be honest with you, it makes me kind of angry with knives with like Chris Reeve knives. And I understand they use it's a different washer. It's like a crazy big thing, right? And you get that hydraulic action. But when we have people out there who are able to do this, and this is not going to be like a drop shut, but it's very smooth considering it's on, I can't really reverse flick it because of the positioning of the thumb studs and the length of the blade. But it's very, very smooth considering it's running on phosphor bronze. And I'm happy to say that there is absolutely no blade play up, down, left, or right, which is cool. It's something that whenever I feel like, I'm looking at exceptionally smooth action on a knife that's utilizing PB washers, I'm always like, great, but it's going to have blade play. Right? I'm just used to that. Unless it's got the really, really wide washers that you see in a Chris Reeve knife. Right? Then it doesn't have blade play, but it takes so long to close. Like, it's just so tight, This, not the case. I don't think it does. It doesn't look like it has exceptionally wide washers or anything. It's just tolerances on this thing are really well done. Like, it was made by somebody who really knows how to make a folding knife, right? This is not going to appeal to everybody. It's not even going to appeal to all knife enthusiasts who collect custom knives. This knife is probably not going to appeal at all to people who regularly buy knives in the $50 to $250 range, which is the majority of the people who watch my channel. People are going to look at this and go, "That's so plain." Great, Tom Mayo legacy. It's custom. It's not appealing to me. I can understand that. There's no way. It's not meant to appeal to the masses. This is meant to appeal very specifically to people who find this particular aesthetic interesting and who are huge fans of the Dr. Death and the Tom Mayo legacy, right? So it's one of those things where, you hear about. I remember being on Blade forums and hearing about, the Dr. Death, Tom Mayo Dr. Death. And it was just one of those things that people would say, I like it, or the aesthetic's not for me, or whatever. They would say they like it or they don't like it. But I wouldn't hear anything bad. I would never hear anything bad about it. It's just like it's one of those knives where there was like a general respect for the knife. I don't know anything. I said knife with an F. I don't know anything about Tom Mayo, his past, or anything like that. Whether or not he's been in and out of controversy, I have no idea, right? I haven't heard anything. But when it comes to the knife itself, it seems like this model, people have great respect for it, even if they don't find it aesthetically appealing. I remember watching a video a long time ago on, I think it was Dr. Frunke's channel. It might have been this or the Russian Dr. Death. I honestly can't remember. But that was right around the first time that I remember being aware of it, about 2013 or so. A long time ago, but not that long if we're talking about, the world of folding knives. 2013 is really not that long ago. Or maybe it is. There is a lanyard hole. So if you want to put a lanyard on it, there you go. I don't know. This is kind of the more useless part of the video. A couple of standoffs back here. Real simple construction, right? Comparing it to today's, if you're wanting me to compare, like, how does it feel versus a modern, production folding knife? I can honestly say the part of me that's like really wowed by this is just, it's like, wow, I'm holding a Dr. Death. But compared to, like today's knife standards, I would say like your average production folding knife feels just as good, if not better, right? I'm just being honest with you. There's nothing here that feels magical, right? It's cool, and it's obviously well made. It's very impressive by today's standard, even for somebody making handmade knives. It's plain Jane. There's not a whole lot of craziness going on, right? Not that it's meant to be the most complicated thing in the whole world. I think this would feel fairly underwhelming to somebody who's used to handling, titanium frame lock folding knives from 2022, right? Just be like, wow, it's a knife. So this is specifically going to be interesting for people who collect this type of stuff, right? Which is understandable. I mean, if that's something that you're like, oh my gosh, how could anybody? Hey, you should save your breath, save your energy. The market for this type of stuff is not only healthy, it has been active for an incredibly long period of time. So whining and complaining about it and oh my goshing about it on social media will do absolutely nothing. It's the equivalent of standing on railroad tracks with a wiffle bat. It's not going to stop that train, I promise you. But that's okay. You don't have to. I mean, it's like I always say, nobody has to graduate into this territory. Having handled this, and as somebody who not regularly but periodically does buy knives in the lower end of this territory, does this feel like something I need to add to my collection? No. It's cool. I think it's nice. It's definitely well made. I mean, the blade is definitely impressive. The overall aesthetic it's very appealing. But, having handled it now, there's not really enough here where I'm like, I absolutely have to have this thing. I like it, and, I obviously cannot make this. I have handled fully handmade custom knives that are nowhere near the same overall build quality, right? Tom Mayo obviously knows what he's doing. I like it. I think it's neat, but I don't feel like I want it so badly that I'm ready to pay $1,500 to $2,000 for a basic one, right? And I could even be wrong about that. I don't like to talk too much about pricing because I don't want to say anything that's going to make the price. That sounds weird. Like my channel has the power to make the price of custom knives go up on the secondary market. I don't know, right? People have told me that that's happened before, and I'm like, I don't know if it's mainly specifically for me, but I don't like to talk a whole lot about price. But anyways, what I'm saying is I don't know that I'm ready to spend $2,000 on something like this, right? Exposed frame lock, no lock bar insert, no over travel stop. This could be a model from, truthfully, this could be a 2008 model. It could be a 2016 model. I don't know. I've seen a few where there's a little bit more information under the Tom Mayo mark here, right? I don't know if generational differences or anything like that. To my knowledge, there have never been lock bar inserts or over travel stops on these knives, and these pocket clips have all been relatively the same thing. Fortunately, the tension on the lock bar is enough that there's virtually no chance you're going to overextend that. No detent lash or anything like that. No pivot lash. Very, very consistent in here. Stop pin, nice big fat stop pin, but no shouldering or anything. Like I said, no blade play up, down, left, or right. Real nice, right? Very, very specific as far as people who are going to hunt these down. Very few people, but the people who do absolutely go nuts for them. That's at some point, once you keep climbing that ladder, you eventually just graduate into an ultra specific tier where you're only interested in specific things, right? And those specific things are never, ever things that appeal to everybody. Not even close. Best case scenario, it appeals to 1% of the entire population of the knife world. So that's what this is. It's cool, and I wish that I could offer you guys more information, right? But this is just something that I wanted to handle and experience and share my thoughts on. It does make me want to handle the Shiro collaboration. Just to check it out and see, maybe is that the one that do I want that? I don't know, right? It's fun. What's fun for me is deciding, after handling all this stuff, is deciding what the next thing is that I want to hunt down. So I'm happy to have this on my channel. I'm happy to have this here for people to come and watch and take a look at. It doesn't feel like something that's for me. Very impressive. There's nothing wrong with the knife. It's really cool. I really don't know what more I can say. I can't believe I managed to talk for 27 minutes, but that's, par for the course here. Thanks again to the gentleman who loaned this to me. Very cool. Happy to say that I finally handled one of these. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe, because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.